Listener discretion advised. Adult language and mature content.
Welcome, everybody. This is Two Queens, One Screen podcast. I'm Keeley.
I'm Jen.
Thanks for coming back. Today is our third episode, big number 3. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We are so glad you're here.
Very excited today. And today's a fun one, I think, because we are focusing all of our energy after we get some good chit chat in one show that Keeley turned me on to.
Yeah, we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're just going to talk about one show today. It'll be good and interesting. I think you guys will like it. It'll be good.
It'll be fun.
Hopefully.
So we were talking about things that happened over the weekend, and one of the things that I did, one of our loyal listeners is my dad, and he is going to have to be sworn to secrecy because I got a secret tattoo this weekend with my sister, and I'm very excited about it. It's my cat's ears over my elbow. You're looking at it, it's upside down. But it's her ears in fine line, and it didn't even hurt. It was so easy.
Very cute.
Thank you. And my sister, she got her dog's ears over her elbow. And the reason that we decided to do that is because we're stepsisters. And one of the things that has really bonded us is that we both have pets with brain damage. So we got that tattoo.
Which I didn't know was a thing. Not that can't happen in animals, but I didn't know that you could bond with another human over animals with brain damage. Not that it's funny. It's not funny, but it's kind of funny.
It's a little funny. It's a little funny because these pets are so well loved and so well taken care of. For her dog is like her child, and I have children. So for me, my cat is my forever baby because my children are growing and they are less and less interested in me or my attention. And my cat is just a dumb lollipop, little sweetie, so dumb, but very cuddly and very affectionate, cannot clean herself. So I have to do that for her. My sister's dog, actually pretty smart, but also doesn't understand social cues because I think he had a head trauma. And that's it's like, but that's fun. So that's my fun thing I'm very excited about. And then my favorite thing is then I was telling you about my fun tattoo. And then I found out that you have a tattoo, which I was not aware of before.
Yes, you did ask me if I have a tattoo. And I did say, yes, I do. And you were very interested. You thought, okay. And I told you it's on my back. And you said, where on my back? And I paused awkwardly.
I knew where it was the second that you paused.
Yes, everybody, I do have a Tramp stamp. Yes, I do have that. It is not tribal. It is not, what was the other one you asked me?
I was like, is it a butterfly?
No, it's not a butterfly. It is a cartoon.
Not Tweety Bird or the Tasmanian Devils with my other two guesses.
Nope, it's not Snoopy. It's not Tweety Bird. It's not the Tasmanian Devil. It is Blueberry Muffin from Strawberry Shortcake cartoon, 1980s Strawberry Shortcake. And Blueberry Muffin was my favorite character growing up as a kid. And I just loved her so much that I just Tramp stamped her right back there so my husband could look at her all he wanted.
Oh my God. How old were you when you got her?
My gosh, it was a long time ago. We were just recently married, so a good 15 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, and
so
I was
this
telling
wasn't
you,
like your brain was done growing when you got that tattoo.
Oh, yes. I mean,
so that's like an adult choice that you made.
Oh, yes. He and I had decided we wanted to get tattoos quite a ways after we started dating, and I knew exactly what I wanted. I got it a little bit smaller than I want right now, and I was telling you I want to get it redone. I want to get her a little bit bigger, and I want to add Custard, her little kitty cat, next to her. I do want to get
I
some
love
more
it.
Strawberry Shortcake cartoon tattoos next to her on my back down there for him to enjoy. So
One on each cheek.
yeah. But yeah, that's what I do have. I really love tattoos. I have an addictive personality, so I could probably get a lot more of them, but I
I
don't.
have a bunch. I have one on my foot. I have one on my shoulder. I have one on my hip. The one on my hip, my sister, I was 19. My little sister ratted me out to my dad. I was working at the spaghetti shop where it was like a fast food Italian place where they served spaghetti in buckets. Like literally, it was like a bucket that you would take home and flip over, and it was
Awesome.
the sauce was on the bottom. Then you'd flip it over, and
You don't feel fat at all.
It's literally buckets of pasta. And my dad picked me up and he was like, "Show me the tattoo," and I was like, "Fuck." And then I was like, "Listen, Dad, let me tell you." Like symbolizes there's stars because everyone's first tattoo, if you're gonna get a lot of them, is like stars.
Sure.
It's like stars and they represent my siblings, and it's on my hip, and if I get pregnant it's not gonna stretch out, and also a bathing suit covers it. Like it's for me. And I remember Dad going like, I like this like responsible choice, and I'm like, I got a tattoo and your response is like, oh, responsible.
Oh my gosh.
But Dad was very chill about my tattoo, actually. And I did get pregnant, and it didn't stretch out.
Awesome.
My stomach is ruined, so no one wants to look there anyway, but my tattoo didn't stretch out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I like mine on my back. It didn't stretch out, right? You know,
Yeah.
I like the placement of it. It looks really good. I mean, I don't think the tattoo artist did a bad job. I think it's just a little bit smaller than I would like right now. I just want to get it a little bit bigger. I want to have it
A little
redone.
more going on back there. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, do you want to get started?
I do. I think this is going to be interesting because this is more in your wheelhouse of documentaries that you've watched, and you told me about it, and so I've watched it over the last few days. Netflix, The Manhattan Alien Abduction.
Yes.
Which is super interesting because for me, as someone who's not really in the scientific phenomena of like UFOs, it's not something that I've really followed before. They are like, you're fully immersed in the culture of the people who not only like believe in aliens, but people who say, I've been abducted, this is my story, and it's not a thing they're putting on. This is genuine group of people that will need to talk about it. And I thought that was kind of an interesting perspective that I hadn't been shown before, because most alien abduction people I've seen are like bits on SNL.
Yes. And this is not like that. This is a 3-part series. And this was claimed to have been, how did they phrase it? The most well-documented alien abduction in the 1990s. I mean, technically they say it happened November 30th, 1989, but it stretched for 6 years. She claimed it went on for 6 years. When I say claimed, there are 3 people in this documentary. Bud Hopkins, who's the investigative writer, reporter, individual, Carol, his wife, and then Linda, who is the abductee. So Carol and Linda, there's a big struggle between the two of them throughout this 3-part series, that Carol, every now and then, she sees some red flags with Linda's story and looks into it here and there and tries to tell Bud, and Bud doesn't really believe her. So that's why I say claim to be abducted, because there's a lot that goes into it with her story. So they start you out with Bud. They introduce you to Bud. Bud's very interested in alien abductions. So he takes the group of people that come to him about being abducted by aliens, and he makes them feel welcome. He has them come to his house for group sessions to be able to feel welcome and not alone and weird, right? They come to his house, they talk about their experience, they go under hypnosis with him each individually and talk about their abduction. And so they go over that with each of these people. It has an assistant, Peter, who they talk to quite a bit, and he is really into all of this as well.
I thought it was very interesting. Bud Hopkins is such an interesting guy. He's super well educated.
Yes.
He's so just charming and warm.
Yes.
And creates this community for these abductees.
Yes.
That lets them all come together and talk about their experiences. And he uses that, and he writes a book, or several books he writes about it. But it's very well researched. It's almost therapeutic what he does for these people. He puts them into hypnosis, and the hypnosis part I thought was kind of bizarre, because they kind of go into this state, all of them forget parts of their abductions, and he's able through hypnosis to bring those things out for them.
Yeah.
Which was super interesting, because they all had very similar experiences of the abduction or responses to the hypnosis.
Yeah, and it's interesting because really the only way that you can, I don't know, get these stories maybe out of these people is through these leading questions, right? He has to give them the answers almost to get it out of them. Do you see what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
And that's why people are questioning these hypnosis sessions, because they see him as completely leading them, and they're not telling the story, but he is.
It's very questionable. I think hypnosis itself is a little, although I have a friend who did like a hypnosis for past life regression.
Sure.
I think is what it's called. And she told me about it a couple of years ago, and she said that it was, one, a very personal experience, but also just a very intense experience, and that she was literally transported into a field, and she was physically there. It was so incredibly real. And I would say that I'm very much a skeptic of all of that, but I think it's really interesting, and if my friend says that's real, she's not someone who would just like fuck around with that stuff. I believe her. And the process that he goes through with these people, you're watching it and you're like, oh, they're kind of faking it. But
sure,
it's people that I don't think would typically be saying these things. You know, it's not cuckoos or people looking for a lot of attention. It seemed like people who were like genuinely distressed by their experience, and he's kind of helping them. And
he takes one of these people on talk shows. They go, I mean, this is the late 80s, early 90s. He goes on Phil Donahue, Oprah Winfrey, Geraldo Rivera, and they talk about
Ricky Lake.
Right. They talk about these alien abductions, and people just mock them. They openly laugh at them. They mock them. I mean, it's not, these people are completely, I don't know. Why would you do that on purpose if you're lying? You know what I mean? Not that I necessarily personally, it seemed kind of weird and hokey to me also watching these hypnosis sessions, but these people truly believed that they had been abducted by aliens, believed these people, so they went on these talk shows. It was really serious to all of them. So ultimately, you see in episode 1, Linda reads one of Bud's books. She writes him a letter and says, I think I had an alien abduction experience. My husband and I went to the Catskills. I fell asleep one night. I felt like I had a dream that I was levitating in the dream, and I woke up outside on the grass. I had a nosebleed, and then I tasted metallic blood when I woke up. And so they were very interested. Bud and Peter were very interested in her letter. They called her. They wanted to meet her. They made that happen. And this whole time, we kind of forgot about Carol. So Carol is filming everything. That's how we know what's going on. Carol is filming everyone. She's filming all these people having these hypnosis sessions. She's filming Bud calling Linda. She's constantly filming everything that's going on.
She has a scientific documentary background. She's super well educated. She's created documentaries for PBS. She's done a lot of independent ones. Very scientific method, very diligent, very matter of fact. And so the fact that she is so scientifically minded, it was very interesting to me that as she's going through this and she meets Bud, they hit it off. They're this, it seems like just a genuinely loving couple, and they just supportive of each other, which I found them both very endearing. She's kind of there to help him, support him in his work, and then also to help document.
Yes, the whole time. So they meet Linda, they have these interviews with her, and then Linda goes home and looks in the mirror one day and notices that she has this bump on the right side of her nose that she hadn't noticed before, tells her husband. So Linda is a mom. She has 2 young boys. She is married. She tells her husband, look at my nose. I don't know what's going on with my nose. And he says, well, you should probably go to the doctor and have that checked out. Goes to the doctor, gets an x-ray. The x-ray comes back, and there is this image on her nose of this swirl or this spiral thing, and it's very small, but on her nose. And I'm going to tell you right now, it looks exactly like my nose ring does when I get a dental x-ray. I'm telling you, she doesn't have a nose ring, everybody.
No, she doesn't.
When I get x-rays, when I go to the dentist, I don't take out my nose ring, and I have a stud, but it's a swirl on the inside so it doesn't fall out, and it looks exactly like that.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's very weird.
It's high. It looks high. And the thing about Linda is, this is the early 90s.
Yes.
She lives next to the Brooklyn Bridge in an apartment condo building. She's very ordinary in a lot of ways. Like, she's a mom. I think she's a stay-at-home mom.
I think so.
Takes care of her kids, takes care of her husband, takes care of the house. She is charming. She's interesting. She's very pretty. She's like 40-something. She's like early 40s when this happens. Immediately, what everyone says is, the camera loves her. She looks great in front of the camera. She carries herself really well. She tells the stories. It's kind of amazing that as they start documenting, they're like, oh, this is great. So they form kind of a closer relationship more quickly, because her experience fits right in with what Bud had been saying. He's doing the hypnosis. She's letting him put that on camera. She and Carol hit it off, so they become friends. It's not like she had been part of this group of people before. She's just a New Yorker mom.
They're very protective of her. Yes.
Very protective of her.
Yes.
And it was a very nurturing dynamic for her that they created.
Yes. And to go back to your other point about she's just kind of an ordinary person, she has this other, ultimately, she has a second abduction that happens after the x-ray. So the x-ray comes out. Bud is very excited. He goes and does this talk and shows the x-ray to these people, this conference, and everybody's excited to see this x-ray. And he says it's this proof, right, that aliens are putting things inside of humans and tagging us. And so then the next thing we know is Linda calls him and says, oh my gosh, I was abducted again last night. And he says, oh my gosh, Linda, come over right now. Her response is, I need to put on some makeup. I'll be right there. And she comes over and she's got full glam on, red lipstick and everything. And you gotta love her, I guess. It just is hilarious to me. Yes, so she has this second abduction story that is the main story that this whole documentary is about, on November 30th, 1989, she says that she feels herself levitating inside of her room and she can't move, and she goes through her wall. She's floating through her wall in her bedroom outside, and then she's lifted up into the alien spacecraft. And she's wearing her nightgown, which happens to be white. And ultimately, at the end of episode 1, they tell you that 23 witnesses have seen this woman floating, levitating outside above this apartment building up in the sky at whatever o'clock it was,
Mm-hmm.
in the middle of the night. So, Bud and Carol go crazy. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the end of, part 1.
And part of it that made it so visible when that happened is that there was a blackout in New York City. We are from Idaho, so in the 80s when there's blackouts in New York City, we weren't really,
Sure.
I don't know anything about that, but that was something that did happen occasionally. But people are seeing it. They show maps. People are on the bridge driving and they see it. People are looking out their window from their apartment and they see it. So it's the most credible and most documented case of an alien abduction that they've ever had. So of course, Bud is like over the moon.
Yes.
That he's got this.
Yeah. So they talk to all of these people, about all these witnesses. They have a newspaper delivery man. I think he was the one driving over the bridge. They have a person inside her house that's looking through her curtains, another elderly woman inside her house. They talk about how Bud wants to take all of these things and make a book. He keeps saying, I've got the x-ray, I've got her story, I've got these witnesses, and this could be a book, this could be a movie. I think this could be great. And Carol the whole time is thinking, okay, this is okay, but this is just starting to sound too real. This is just
too perfect.
Right, too perfect. So Carol starts to go over these hypnosis sessions. She starts to replay them, actually play the footage of each of these individuals in these group sessions. And everybody in general has the same kind of affect in these hypnosis sessions. And then they play Linda's. And Linda's is different. Linda doesn't talk differently. The other people generally, they talk in a different tone. They talk in a different voice.
Kind of like they're talking in their sleep, or
Right.
maybe like they're drunk. Like it's more
Right.
effort for
Right.
them to get the words out.
Right. They're struggling to find the story. They have parts of the story where she knows every single thing that's happened. So Carol's like, oh, this is kind of weird, red flag. And then Linda starts to become paranoid. We're not quite sure what's happening. Linda says, now I'm paranoid that people are following me because of my story. We find out in February of 1991, right? We're talking 3 years later. She has these 2 men that show up at her door named Richard and Dan that are talking to her about her experience. And she feels really uncomfortable. And they're just asking about her abduction, about floating out the window and people seeing her. And she's not quite sure what to do. She doesn't know why they're talking to her.
They kind of act like they're cops or like they're government guys. And she's totally freaked out. So when that happens, what do? You call your best friends, Bud and Carol, and you go, I think the government is wanting to do some things. Of course, she goes over there and tells them all about it. And they continue to follow her. Yes. And they continue to harass her. And of course, whenever that happens, she tells Bud and Carol. And then in another weird twist of things, they're getting, maybe violent with her. They start writing letters to Bud.
Yeah.
Explaining that they also saw when they were bodyguards for a diplomat.
Yes, it was the Secretary General of the United Nations, Perez de Cuellar, apparently.
Which, who would have thunk?
Who would have thunk?
That guy gets brought into this, but
Yeah.
they were bodyguards for him. They all saw her floating that night of the blackout in November. They're freaked out about it, plus the government doesn't want all this coming out, and it just keeps getting more and more intense. So I think anytime that, as Carol was becoming more skeptical about it, and as it's getting more public, and Carol, who has, again, a very scientific method to this and has a questioning mind, she sits there and wants to ask questions. As that's all happening, no one really gets a chance to scrutinize it because suddenly the ante's been upped by all of this drama.
Right.
And not only that, you find out that Linda's son has experienced this.
Yes.
Being abducted as well. You find out that Linda's grandmother had spirits in the house and that they had experienced that together. And when Linda was young and her grandmother was like, yes, this is the thing. And it actually sounds like, you know what? Maybe these aliens have been abducting people for generations in this family.
Yep. That's what Bud comes to this weird conclusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's just getting worse and worse.
It's getting worse and worse. And I don't understand how Bud made this leap, but his theory is they're conducting genetic experiments, which is why it's been happening for generations, which is why all the way from Linda's grandmother up to her son, that doing these experiments because what they want to do is slowly replace us by creating human alien hybrid. And my God, Linda realizes in one of these hypnosis sessions, yes, they were checking out her eggs.
Yes.
I don't understand where he made that leap from.
Yeah.
But that's where they ended up.
Yeah. So Johnny's story was that Linda woke up and she went out into the hallway, and her two boys and her husband were standing in the hallway with their nose bleeding, and her son had said that there were aliens in the house. Mm-hmm. And Linda said she was just in shock and frozen and couldn't do anything to help anybody. And so that was his story, that he had seen
her son,
or more aliens inside their home. Mm-hmm. And Carol was concerned that Linda was coaching her son into saying these things, and Bud said, what child makes up a story? Children don't make up stories. Children don't lie.
Which lets you know that Bud does not have children.
Right. And they said that at the time, Johnny was 9 years old. Let's raise your hand if you know a 9-year-old that hasn't lied ever. Anyway, but Bud does this interview with Johnny. There's a lot of pauses. There's an audio interview and a video interview, right? He pauses a lot, looks to his mom and says, oh, no, wait, that's not right. It was this. There's just little things like that Carol says, oh, I'm not quite sure if he's telling the truth or if his mom had coached him. Carol was just really concerned. And Carol is really leaning towards that Linda's whole story is a hoax. She just is thinking, I think this whole thing is made up. I think she read Bud's initial books from the beginning, knew what he wanted to hear, and has kind of played this whole thing out for him for attention. And so then part 2 stops where filmmakers are asking Linda, do you think Johnny will talk to us? And she says, I don't think so. And so Johnny is grown up. He's an adult. And then episode 3 starts, and there he is willing to talk, but he's all in shadow. He doesn't want to show his face. So episode 3 starts, and he starts telling his story, and he says, yeah, the whole thing is true. He did see aliens that night. And he saw him in his house, and he ran to go get his mom, and she was completely frozen and couldn't do anything about it. And he didn't know why she didn't move. And he's been in therapy ever since, trying to get over it. He's not quite sure what to do with this information. Doesn't talk about it, doesn't tell people about it, doesn't really want people to know.
When we start seeing him in silhouette and he's talking, Linda has a flair for the drama.
Yes.
And the way that this documentary is made, they do a lot of reenactments, and Linda will play herself, although Linda is significantly older now.
Yeah.
She's always smoking and has a red lip, and just,
Yes.
she's, even back then, she was so chic back then, and that all came together. And you see her son, you don't see him, but you see his silhouette, and he's very dramatic, and he's talking about, thank God my mom got me into therapy then. This whole time, Carol's going, I think she's lying, and I think she's messing up her son. And Bud is like, how could you say that? No mother would do this. No kid could make this up. She's, Linda, street smart. She's an intelligent woman, but she's not educated well enough. She's not interesting enough. She couldn't have planned all this out this far in advance and all of these different moving parts. There's no way she could have achieved that. And you have Linda going, I'm just an ordinary person. I don't know how anyone could think that I'm anything special. And I don't know. I think poor Carol, Bud's wife, going, what the hell is going on here?
Right.
I look at it, and of course, I'm like, are they having an affair? And they don't ever even allude to that, but I felt like there's a picture where she's sitting on his lap.
Yes.
That felt weird to me.
I thought that too.
Finish this going, I would love to hang out with Linda, not because I really like and respect her, but because I think she'd be a really fun time. Who knows what wacky things will come out of her mouth. Carol, I left that having a real respect for her. In the third episode, they start talking about her history, which, again, love occult. And you learn that Carol was brought up in this very strict religious community where you were not to question. You believed the Bible. You do not watch TV or listen to the radio. You don't talk to outsiders. You have it was a very insulated community. When she's in school, she starts to question things more. And she's like, well, what about this? Or what about this? And that was considered offensive.
Yeah.
And so when she questions anything in the Bible or anything about how they do things, when she turned 18 and she was talking to her dad was like, you're out of the family. You're kicked out. And she was cut off from everyone. And then she throws herself into her education and academics and her work. So as Bud's starting to really just focus in on all of Linda's story, and he's going to make a book out of it, and then they're going to make a movie out of it, and he's getting all these accolades, and it's a perfect setup for him. You know, Carol's like, I don't think so. It just doesn't feel right. And that, I think, is, for me, the most interesting part of this story.
Yeah.
Is Carol seeing Bud in a totally different light from this inspiring, academic, warm, caring guy into this, don't question this, which is so triggering for her, which I thought was super interesting.
Yeah, he ends up writing a book called Witnessed from Linda's story. And like you said, he's in the midst of making a movie out of it. And like you said, Carol goes online and posts this huge story that says the whole thing is a hoax. And obviously shit hits the fan and it all goes to hell in a handbasket with everybody. And, you know, she says, I know this is bad and Bud can't come back from this. I know he can't, right? He wrote this book. He has all of these videos and interviews and he's done all of these things. He can't turn around and be like, oh, just kidding. Right? She's a liar or I'm a liar. And then Carol finds out that he has purposefully eliminated certain things from either the book or her story or, right, all of these.
Anything that can be scrutinized.
Yes.
He's taking out, and that is so contrary to her ethics and morals of how she thinks that these things need to be put together. She literally blows up her marriage, blows up her husband's career because of how intensely she feels about that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And like Bud and Peter, like, what the fuck?
Yep, 100%. Yeah, Peter was really mad, the assistant. I mean, he's on the show the whole time. Of course, he's on Bud and I think Linda's side. I don't think well, he might have said a couple of negative things about Carol, but not as many as Linda. Bud has passed away, they said maybe 10 or 12 years ago at this point. But yeah, everybody was upset at her for posting this essay online about it being a hoax, and she puts all this proof that she had about the letters and the signature, right? And Richard and Dan not being real. And she was wired at one point, right?
Oh my gosh.
Right. So Bud wires her because she thinks she's being followed. And then there's this supposed kidnapping. Richard and Dan kidnap her supposedly and then just let her go. Right. So there's all of this that goes on. I mean, it's just so hard to believe because it's so perfect, like you said. And Carol is just thinking, why is this so perfect? Something is so wrong. It just can't be this perfect.
It's really interesting as you see her try and point out the flaws in this to Bud, and he gets so irritated with her because I think Bud genuinely believes what he's doing.
Oh,
I
sure.
think there's been studies that if you are confronted with information that contradicts your beliefs and worldview, you will dismiss it. Like your brain goes, no, that's not a thing.
Yep.
And I think that he was just in so deep at that point. And Pete acknowledges that this may not have been what Bud and he thought it was.
Yeah.
That they were in too deep. But even Carol and Pete are still like, UFOs, totally a thing.
Sure. Yeah.
People getting abducted,
Absolutely.
totally a thing. Just because she lied doesn't mean that it's not a thing. Right. They're still trying to protect Bud's legacy pre-Linda.
Oh, yeah.
And Linda is like, Carol is a piece of shit, and she better watch out. And like... And then you also see the nail in Linda's coffin. There's a million of them. But like for me, when they start showing at the end, showing her life before she got married.
Oh, the singing.
Oh.
The singing. So everybody, she had a record. She had a song. They played the record. She did a lip sync to the song. And she had pictures of herself with... Let's see, John Wayne, right? And who
Mia
else?
Farrow?
Mia Farrow and another actor maybe. So she was out
But she had a record that was a hit. It wasn't something that I immediately recognized, but she looked so good. So cool. She could have taken off.
Sure.
She could have had a career.
Yeah.
I honestly think that she definitely had the presence and the charisma to have some kind of life like that. But she had been raised by a mom that was like, you get married so you can have kids, so you can be a wife and mother. That's the ultimate goal. And so she did that instead of having this. It seems to me that she did all of this because I think she was yearning for some of that celebrity. I mean, she was interviewed all over the place. She was on all the TV shows. She would go to the conventions with Bud.
I mean, they interview her husband maybe 3 times or something. He seems like a normal, sweet little guy. But, you know, Linda says I met my husband. We fell in love. I had a singing career, and it was either my career or a family. I chose a family, and... Or she said something like, I had to choose a family. And it was very, I don't know, it was really weird and kind of triggering to me that she said I had to choose a family. She couldn't have both back then, apparently. And he said something to the same effect of that. He said, yeah, you know, she had a career and now she has a family. Nothing to the effect of, you know, she was really good at that, or I'm really sad that she didn't do that, or maybe she could have done both, or any sort of empathy for her or she did a good job or any of that. It was, no, she needed to, be my wife and be the mother of my kids. It was very gender specific.
Yeah. And they gave her the accolades that her family gave her were because she was such a good mom and such a good wife. That was the only thing.
Yeah. It was kind of depressing. But that's where it ends. It just kind of stops. They don't really have kind of closure. I don't know. I mean, Bud is gone. Carol blew everything up. We got to see or hear Johnny say, yeah, that actually happened. Obviously, Linda and Carol don't speak. We don't really know. You don't really know if it was a hoax or not. I guess the viewer watching has to decide who you believe, which I think is interesting. You have to decide.
This viewer thinks it was a hoax.
Yeah. I think it was a hoax also.
But I think that she duped even Bud.
Yes. Yes, I agree. And again, not to discredit any other people that believe that, they were abducted by aliens, like you said, like the other people that he was doing genuine work for before he met Linda.
Mm-hmm.
Not to discredit any of those people, but it just kind of ends. The show just ends and that's it. It was really good. You should watch it. It's really good. It's, they're an hour long a piece, so it's a 3-hour show, but it's really good. I liked it.
It's entertaining.
Yeah, it's entertaining.
So do you believe in aliens?
I struggle with that. I want to say I do believe in aliens. That said, I am not one to walk around looking for them. I don't think that when I see something in the sky that it's an automatic UFO. I don't know how to explain it. I think what I see on TV, people that say I videotaped a UFO and then somebody's like that was a balloon or it was a bird or something like that. I tend to believe the second, right, that it was a balloon or a bird or something like that. But like these congressional hearings that they've been having like last week and yesterday, I've cherry picked and watched a couple of them, got the idea of what they've been saying with them. And I have a really hard time, obviously, with our government, trying to tell us that they're telling us the truth, right? That aliens live in the ocean, that they have aliens in their possession, that they have alien technology in their possession. Other countries have the same. Other countries have alien technology in their possession, and they're reverse technology trying to figure out how these things work. And they're doing this race to figure out which country can do that quickest.
Okay.
I have a hard time believing all of that because our government lies to us so much all the time. Why would I believe you right now? Why?
Well, and you could look back on like when they found things and who knows what's actually been discovered and what are they. So I don't. Here's what I think. I think it would be just completely egotistic to think that we are the only intelligent life in the universe.
Absolutely.
So I'm 100% for aliens exist. Do I think they're coming to Earth? 50-50. Maybe they've been here. Are they doing breeding experiments on us? Probably not. I don't think they're very interested in us. I think they've probably gone, oh, never mind. And
I mean, I would look at us and go, no fucking way. Those people are dumber than a box of hair. Why would I even want to breed with them? Why would I want to be anywhere near them? I do absolutely not want to have my offspring anywhere looking like them, talking like them, walking like them. Absolutely not. No. I would look at us and go, no, turn around and walk away. No.
And how much have they already received through us sending out radio signals?
Right.
And they
responded back? Probably
did they get our Wi-Fi
and
then see that TikTok girl on there, which I think we should circle back to because I found her on Instagram.
And
I've started following her and it's insane. I had to turn it off because I'm going to lose hours of my life.
Thank you.
I told you. that FS worker.
I told you, everybody. But yes, we have signaled to other out into the galaxy. These aliens have probably heard our signal and they're like, these people are stupid. We're not responding back to them. You know they've heard us. They're not responding back to them. No. No, they're not.
We sent something out there. I don't remember what it was. Was it like whale sounds?
Sure.
And something?
I don't know.
I don't know.
This is what I believe. I believe actual people stories over government stories. And honestly, because the government has everything to lie about. And I don't believe a pilot. I don't believe a naval officer. I don't believe any of y'all. But I believe Betty and Bill from 1951 when they're driving down the road and they say that they were abducted from their car in wherever United States, or like the movie Fire in the Sky. Have you ever seen that from 1970s? Travis Walton.
It's been a really long time.
So, yeah, it has the cover and he's got his arms up. That's a really good movie. That's a true story. That's the stuff that I tend to lean towards believing instead of our government, because our government is ridiculous. We have things in our government called the Intergalactic Federation headquarters. Are you fucking serious? We have the Immaculate Constellation program. What the fuck is wrong with you? We have the AARO, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. People, we're spending money on this stupid fucking shit. And in these congressional hearings, they said that aliens are demonic. What the fuck are you? No, I'm gonna believe Bill and Betty from 1951 over you stupid fucks than this. No.
I missed the part where they said in a congressional hearing that aliens are demonic.
Right.
But I'm going to look that up. That's fun.
They said they're demonic because they're interdimensional. Like, I think before you and I started recording, they are time travelers. They're interdimensional. And so that means that they're demons, that they're demonic. No, I don't believe our U.S. government at all, because all they do is lie to us. I'm going to believe somebody else on the streets.
The most that I know about taking UFOs seriously is that Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 is credited and very highly thought of in that community. And I think he said that he thinks it's time travelers, like human time travelers, possibly. I don't know. I haven't read enough about it. I should probably have read more about it. I just can't get on board. And I think because it's so high level, I'm not a religious person. I wouldn't even consider myself really a spiritual person, if we're being honest. I believe that if it's something beyond my ability to know, and so I'll just go, maybe it's a miracle. It's something not for my tiny human brain in Florida to have to figure out or worry about. It's something miraculous and above me. And so maybe it is demonic because it is interdimensional, but those are so high concept that I'm just going to wash my hands of it.
Yeah. But it's so high concept that the United States government has to spend millions of dollars looking into, lying to us about, and then saying in an open hearing for the entire world, I can't talk to you about that. I could talk to you about that in a closed session. Well, then why the fuck are we here? If you can't answer my question, because that's mostly what this 2-hour hearing was, all these Congress people asking them all of these questions, and they would say, no, I can't answer that. It has to be in a closed session. Sir, then why the fuck are we here? You know what? It was a big waste of time. It was really annoying, but that was super interesting. And also I found out about this other alien phenomena called alien phone calls. Apparently they can call you on the phone. Did you know that?
I got Santa to call the boys on the phone once. No, I did not know they could call the phone.
Seriously. No, I'm obsessed with this. I just have to tell you really quickly before we end, really quickly. So I told you the first time. So I'm obsessed with everything paranormal. And there is this audio podcast that I listen to on YouTube. It's called The Tape Library. And he has a lovely British accent. And he is so smooth.
Accents.
And so warm, and he's so slow when he speaks. And I listen to it when I'm at work, and I love it. And he did this one episode called The Sudbrink Calls. And it is about this family that lives in upstate New York. And one of the family members, Gary Sudbrink, received phone calls in the early 90s, the same time that this Linda was being supposedly abducted, right, from Manhattan, or Manhattan alien abduction. Mr. Gary Sudbrink was receiving alien phone calls to his home in New York, and he recorded them. And it is fascinating and fantastic to listen to. You have to look it up. So if you don't,
Okay.
if you just Google the Sudbrink calls, Sudbrink, or you can type in the tape library and listen to him and his beautiful British accent and listen to that. It is fantastic. And they call Gary and they basically say, when are you going back to Texas? Because Gary is visiting his family in New York and he lives in Texas. And Gary's like, what are you talking about? He thinks his brother Steven is pranking him. He's like, Steven, shut the fuck up. He's like, when are you going back to Texas? But the voice is very slowed. It's very kind of garbled, kind of like if you were to record like we're recording now, and then you slow it down and it sounds really warped. That's kind of what it sounded like, but it wasn't a conversation. So Gary would ask the person on the other line actual questions like, who are you? Where are you calling from? And this thing would just repeat these same things over and over to him, like to be contacted, to visit the many, beware, right? Are you back from Texas? Keep eye on the sky. Like he just kept saying these things over and over. And he had 4 phone calls with this man 2 nights in a row. And it was so interesting. Gary never went on any shows. He never did any interviews. He never spoke about it until, so this was in 1993 when this happened. And in 2006, he finally went to this kind of weird conference about Men in Black and this woman. And he gave this woman that did this presentation on the Men in Black his copy of his phone calls and said, here you go. You might find these interesting, and then just left. He never let her talk to him again. And so it wasn't like he was this weird fame junkie. And ever since then, people have tried to verify all this stuff. It's so cool and so interesting. But there are other people that have had phone calls. A man named Preston Dennett from 1950 claimed he had phone calls from aliens. The whole Mothman event in West Virginia, John Kill, he had phone call from Indrid Cole. Like, this is a thing. I think it's really fascinating to look into. So anyway, everybody go and listen to the tape library. I love him and his accent. But the Sudbrink calls are really cool. I just wanted to mention that.
I had never heard of that before. So how did he surmise that these are aliens?
So his father and his uncle are very into aliens. And his father was saying on the other line, so way back when, it was a landline, everybody. It had a line, right, with a cord, and another person could pick up another phone and y'all could talk at the same time. And he's listening and he kept saying, that sounds like an alien. This is an intergalactic person. Are you an intergalactic person? So his uncle and his dad had visited an observatory in West Virginia that apparently is very famous it collapsed in 1988, and it was rumored that aliens attacked it. Right now, It's a big part of the Breakthrough Listen project for signals out into the galaxy to listen. And they believe that this phone call was from an intergalactic person. They never said alien. I like how they use the word intergalactic person.
Very PC.
Yes. And Gary had the year before, when his brother Stephen was getting married, Stephen actually had an experience when he was driving to his own wedding. He said he saw Gary driving in Gary's car. So he was driving on the road, Gary was driving next to him, and then the lane next to him, just kind of staring at him weird, looking at him for a really long time, not watching the road. And Steven's like, "What are you doing?" Waving at him. And then Gary sped off. They get to Steven's wedding. Steven confronts Gary, and Gary's like, "Dude, my car is in Texas. I don't know what you're talking about. I just got here. That wasn't me." And so part of these phone calls was the person on the other line to Gary was saying, "They're impersonating you. You need to be aware they're impersonating you. There's double of you. People are impersonating you." And then at the wedding, one of Gary's friends, Mike, says, "Why did you call me? You sound so much better." And Gary's like, "What are you talking about?" And his friend says, "Dude, you called me and you said all of these things, but you sounded really weird." And Gary's like, "I haven't called you. I haven't talked to you until now." So he had all of these weird experiences where people were impersonating him. It's just a fascinating story. It's really cool. I really liked it.
Maybe they are among us.
Anyway, so yeah, that's my 2 cents for those two. Those things, go look it up, go listen to them. It's really good. They're really good.
Cool stuff.
All right, so that's our show this week, everybody. Next week is Thanksgiving.
We're going to do one next Thanksgiving?
Sure.
Maybe.
We'll think about it.
I'm around.
We're around. Why wouldn't we?
We're around.
We're always here. We're here for the people, right? We're here to give.
We're here for you guys.
We're here for you guys. We're givers.
You guys should be thankful for us.
Yes.
You're welcome.
We're thankful for you. We want you to watch. We want you to listen. Tell your friends. We're here for you, boy. Okay.
All right.
See you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
Next week.
Bye.
Bye.